The slam of the apartment door echoed in Liam's ears, a harsh punctuation mark at the end of a very bad day. His brother, Dylan, had really yelled about something silly that had somehow grown into a giant, prickly monster of an argument. Liam, a boy who usually kept his thoughts tucked away like treasures in a box, felt a swirling storm inside him. His stomach churned, and his hands felt tight. He didn't want to talk anymore. He didn't want to explain or listen. He just wanted to be alone, far away from Dylan's booming voice and the heavy feeling in the air. His secret spot called to him. It wasn't a hidden treehouse or a fort made of blankets, but something much better. It was the rooftop of their tall apartment building. Up there, the city hummed a different tune, and the world below seemed to shrink, making his own problems feel a little smaller too. It was his quiet place, a perfect hideaway when his heart felt like a crumpled piece of paper. He crept out of his room, careful not to make a sound. The hallway felt long and silent, like a tunnel. He tiptoed past Dylan's closed door, holding his breath, hoping his brother wouldn't suddenly appear. The coast was clear. He made his way to the back stairwell, a dusty, rarely used path that led up. Each step creaked a little under his worn sneakers, and Liam imagined the sound as his worries slowly being left behind, one step at a time. The climb was long, a winding journey through shadows and the faint smell of old concrete. His legs started to feel tired, but the thought of the rooftop kept him going. He pushed open the heavy metal door at the very top. A gust of cool evening air rushed in, smelling of rain and distant car fumes. He stepped out, and a soft gasp escaped his lips. The city stretched out before him, a breathtaking tapestry woven with countless pinpricks of light. Skyscrapers, tall and proud, pierced the twilight sky, their windows glowing like eyes. Below, car headlights streamed along roads, looking like slow-moving rivers of gold and ruby. It was a magical sight, a sparkling wonderland that always made his chest feel lighter. The anger and sadness from the fight with Dylan started to loosen their grip, replaced by a quiet wonder. He walked to the edge, not too close, and sat down on a low wall, his legs dangling slightly. He looked up at the vast, darkening sky, where the first few stars were beginning to twinkle shyly. The sounds of the city floated up to him, a distant siren, a faint laugh, the gentle thrum of traffic, all blended into a calming lullaby. He pulled his knees to his chest, resting his chin on them, and let the beauty of the night wash over him. This was his sanctuary, his place to think, or sometimes just to be. Liam sat on the rooftop wall, his knees drawn up to his chest, gazing out at the vast, twinkling expanse of the city. The earlier storm of anger and frustration inside him had begun to settle, much like dust after a strong wind. Up here, the world felt different. The sharp edges of his argument with Dylan seemed to soften, blurred by the shimmering lights below. Each tiny glow was a home, a story, a life, all happening at once, and his own small troubles felt less overwhelming in comparison. He took a deep breath, the cool night air filling his lungs. It smelled clean, a mix of distant rain and the faint, sweet scent of blossoming trees from a park far away. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the sounds of the city wash over him. The gentle hum of electricity, the far-off wail of a siren that quickly faded, the murmur of voices from a street below that sounded like a secret language. When he opened them again, the cityscape seemed even brighter, more alive. The skyscrapers, which had looked like stern giants from his apartment window, now seemed friendly, their lit windows creating patterns against the dark sky. The cars on the streets below moved like tiny, glowing beetles, weaving intricate paths. He watched a plane slowly cross the sky, a string of red and white lights, heading towards some unknown destination. It made him think about how big the world was and how many adventures were out there. A small smile touched Liam's lips. It wasn't a big, happy smile, but a quiet, peaceful one. The rooftop always did this to him. It was his special kind of magic. He often came here when he felt lost or sad, and the city lights never failed to make him feel a little bit found again. They were like a giant, comforting blanket of stars spread out just for him, reminding him that even when things felt dark, there was always light to be found. He leaned his head back against the cool concrete of the wall, feeling the rough texture against his hair. He thought about Dylan and the fight. The anger was still there, a tiny ember deep inside, but it wasn't burning as fiercely now. It was more like a dull ache. He knew he couldn't stay mad forever, but he also knew he wasn't ready to go back downstairs and pretend everything was fine. Not yet. He needed more time in this quiet, glowing world where he could just be Liam without having to be Liam, Dylan's little brother, or Liam, the boy who was always quiet. He picked up a small, smooth pebble from the rooftop floor and turned it over and over in his fingers. The weight of it felt solid and real. He thought about how simple things could be, like a smooth stone or a twinkling light. Why couldn't talking to Dylan be that simple? Why did words always get tangled and twisted until they hurt? He sighed, a soft sound lost in the vastness of the night. For now, he would just watch the city breathe and let its quiet magic mend his heart, little by little. Downstairs, in the quiet apartment, Dylan still felt the heat of their argument simmering inside him. His face was hot, and his hands were clenched. He paced the living room, replaying Liam's quiet, hurt face in his mind. He knew he'd been loud, maybe too loud, but Liam always made him feel unheard, like his feelings didn't matter as much. It wasn't fair, but as the minutes ticked by, the sharp edges of his anger began to dull. A different feeling started to creep in, a cold, prickly feeling that settled in his chest. It was worry. Liam always went quiet when he was truly hurt, and Dylan knew that quiet meant Liam was pulling away, building walls. And when Liam pulled away, he went to one place and one place only. Dylan stopped pacing. The rooftop, of course. Liam's secret thinking spot. Dylan had found it by accident once, years ago, and had promised not to tell anyone. He hadn't been up there since, but he remembered the view, the quiet calm. He remembered Liam saying it was where he felt most like himself. A knot formed in Dylan's stomach. What if Liam was really sad? What if he thought Dylan didn't care? Even though they fought, and even though Dylan was still mad about Liam always leaving his toys everywhere, deep down, he loved his little brother. He didn't want Liam to be unhappy. He certainly didn't want him to be up there alone, feeling bad because of something Dylan had said. Taking a deep, shaky breath, Dylan made a decision. He wasn't going up there to apologize right away. Not exactly. He was still too proud, too stubborn. But he had to make sure Liam was okay. And maybe, just maybe they could talk. Really talk, not just yell. Even if his anger still felt like a buzzing bee inside him, the worry for Liam was a stronger, heavier weight. He walked to the back stairwell, the same one Liam always used. It was dark and a little scary, but Dylan pushed past his own nervousness. He climbed the worn steps, his footsteps louder than Liam's had been, each one echoing in the stillness. He thought about what he might say, how he might start. Should he pretend he was just looking at the stars? Should he bring up the argument again? No, that wouldn't work. He just needed to be there. As he got closer to the top, he could feel a change in the air, a cool draft coming from the door. He pushed it open, a little louder than Liam had, and stepped out onto the roof. The city lights immediately drew his eyes, a breathtaking sea of sparkling jewels. For a moment, even his anger faded, replaced by the sheer beauty of the view. Then he saw him, Liam, a small, still shape perched on the low wall at the far edge, looking out at the endless glow. Dylan took another breath, feeling his heart thump. This was it. Dylan stood by the rooftop door, the cool night air prickling his skin. His eyes scanned the vast expanse until they landed on Liam, a small, hunched figure silhouetted against the glow of the city. Liam sat on the low wall, his knees drawn up, utterly still. He looked so small, so lost, even amidst the grandeur of the sparkling city. A fresh wave of worry washed over Dylan, pushing aside some of the lingering anger. He took a slow, deep breath, trying to calm the frantic beat of his heart. This wasn't going to be easy. He knew Liam hated confrontation, hated loud voices and arguments. Dylan, on the other hand, often let his feelings burst out like fireworks. He tried to think of the right words, but his mind felt as jumbled as a tangled ball of yarn. Slowly, carefully, Dylan began to walk across the rooftop. His footsteps, usually heavy, felt light and hesitant. Each step closer to Liam felt like walking on thin ice. The distance between them, usually just a few feet in their apartment, now felt like miles. The city lights continued to twinkle below, oblivious to the heavy silence stretching between the two brothers. As he got nearer, he could see the slight slump of Liam's shoulders, the way his head was bowed. Liam didn't look up, didn't seem to notice him at first. Dylan stopped a few feet away, unsure what to do next. The air between them felt thick, not with the cool night breeze, but with all the things they hadn't said, all the hurt words that still hung in the air like a storm cloud. He could practically taste the leftover anger, mixed with his own guilt and concern. Dylan cleared his throat, a small, rough sound that seemed to shatter the quiet. Liam flinched, his head snapping up. His eyes, wide and surprised, met Dylan's. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Liam's face, usually so open, was now a mask of guarded surprise and a flicker of renewed hurt. Dylan saw it, and his chest tightened. Liam, Dylan finally managed, his voice coming out a little rougher than he intended. Liam didn't answer right away. He just stared, his gaze shifting from Dylan's face to the city lights beyond. The silence stretched again, long and uncomfortable. Dylan shifted his weight from one foot to the other, feeling awkward and out of place. He wanted to say something, anything, to break the tension, but the words seemed stuck in his throat, choked by the weight of their fight. He looked out at the city too, the endless lights mocking their inability to connect. He knew he had to say something, but what? How do you unsay all the angry things? How do you build a bridge when all you've done is burn it down? The rooftop, which had seemed so peaceful from the door, now felt like a stage for their unresolved conflict. The silence stretched, cold and heavy, until Dylan broke it again. "Why did you run off?" he blurted out, the words sharper than he meant them to be. "We were still talking." Liam flinched, pulling his knees tighter to his chest. His voice, when it came, was barely a whisper, thin and strained. "We weren't talking, Dylan. You were yelling. Like always." That stung. Dylan felt a fresh surge of anger. "I wouldn't have to yell if you just listened. You always just walk away when things get hard." He gestured vaguely at the city below, as if it was a witness to Liam's supposed wrongdoing. "You always hide." Liam finally looked at him, his eyes flashing with a hurt that quickly turned into defiance. "And you always make everything a big deal. It was just a stupid video game. You don't have to break stuff." "I didn't break it." Dylan shot back, his voice rising despite his earlier promise to himself. "You left your controller on the floor, and I tripped. It's your fault for being so messy." "It's not my fault you're clumsy," Liam retorted, his voice gaining strength. "You always blame me for everything. Remember last month when my bike chain broke? You said I left it out in the rain, but I didn't. You did. That's not fair." Dylan protested, stepping a little closer. "I told you I was sorry about that. And it wasn't even my bike, it was yours." "See," Liam cried, a tear finally escaping and tracing a path down his cheek. "You always make it about you. It's always my fault, or I'm the one who's wrong. I just get tired of it, Dylan. I get tired of feeling like I can't do anything right." His words hung in the cool night air, sharper than any of Dylan's shouts. They hit Dylan harder than he expected, silencing his immediate retort. He watched Liam, truly watched him, seeing the fresh tears and the deep hurt etched on his brother's face. The city lights, which had been so calming, now seemed to mock their harsh words, sparkling silently beneath their messy anger. Dylan took a shaky breath. "That's not what I mean," he said, his voice softer this time, though still rough around the edges. I get frustrated when you don't listen, and sometimes I feel like you don't care about my stuff." Liam wiped his nose with the back of his hand, sniffling. "I do care, but you get mad so fast, and then I just want to disappear." He looked away, back at the endless lights. "I don't like fighting, Dylan. It makes my stomach hurt." Dylan stood there, feeling a pang of guilt. He knew that feeling, the one where his stomach twisted with worry. He just hadn't thought Liam felt it too, not about him. The conversation was hard, like pulling teeth, but they were actually talking about what truly made them mad, not just yelling about the surface stuff. It was painful, like poking at an old bruise, but they were both trying to listen, even when it hurt. The harsh words hung in the air, slowly fading as the brothers looked at each other, then out at the city. The brilliant lights below seemed to absorb the leftover anger, softening the sharp edges of their fight. The vastness of the sparkling city reminded them that their argument, while painful, was just a tiny flicker in a much larger, calmer world. Liam, still sniffling a little, finally spoke again, his voice much quieter now. I feel like you don't think I'm good enough, Dylan. He picked at a loose thread on his jeans, not meeting his brother's eyes. Like I mess up everything, even when I try really hard. Dylan frowned, a new, confused expression on his face. What? No, that's not true. You're good at lots of stuff. Your drawings are really cool, and you're way better at those tricky puzzles than I am. Liam shrugged, a small, sad movement. But you never say that. You always just point out what I do wrong. Like with the video game controller, or when I forgot to take out the trash last week. His voice grew softer, almost a whisper. Sometimes I feel like you wish you didn't have a little brother who's always messing things up. Dylan's eyes widened. He hadn't known Liam felt like that. He just thought Liam was annoying sometimes, like all little brothers. He never meant to make Liam feel unwanted. The thought hit him hard, a cold splash of water on his still warm anger. No, Liam, that's not how I feel, Dylan said, his voice softer than before, almost unsure. He sat down slowly on the low wall a little distance from Liam, mirroring his brother's posture. I don't wish that. I get mad when things aren't neat, or when I think you don't care. But I don't think you mess everything up. He looked out at the city, trying to find the right words that didn't sound like another lecture. Liam still wouldn't look at him, but he listened. The soft glow from the distant buildings seemed to wrap around them, a comforting blanket in the cool night. The steady hum of the city was a gentle background to Liam's quiet voice as he continued to share. And when you yell, Liam went on, his voice still low, it makes me feel small. And then I just want to disappear. I just want to be invisible so you can't be mad at me anymore. He looked at his hands, twisting them together. I don't mean to be messy or forget things. Sometimes my brain just gets full and I forget. Dylan listened, really listened this time. He heard the hurt in Liam's voice, the genuine sadness that lay beneath all the angry words they had thrown at each other. He started to see that Liam wasn't just being annoying on purpose. He was genuinely struggling, and Dylan's yelling only made it worse. The city lights continued to sparkle, quiet witnesses to Liam's bravely shared feelings, helping to calm the storm that had raged inside them both. Liam's quiet confession about feeling small and wanting to disappear hung in the air, wrapping around Dylan like a cold, tight band. Dylan had never thought about it like that. He always saw Liam as just Liam, his little brother, sometimes annoying, sometimes fun, but never someone who felt like he wasn't good enough. The thought made Dylan's own stomach clench. He looked at Liam, really seeing him, not just the messy brother who left controllers on the floor. He saw the slight tremble in Liam's shoulders, the way his hands still fidgeted. And for the first time, Dylan understood. Liam wasn't trying to be difficult. He was hurting. I never meant to make you feel like that, Liam, Dylan said, his voice barely above a whisper. The harshness from before was completely gone, replaced by something soft and uncertain. He looked out at the city, its endless lights blurring a little as his eyes started to sting. It was hard to say what he felt, much harder than yelling. Sometimes, Dylan began, picking at the concrete of the wall. Sometimes I yell because I'm scared. He paused, taking a deep breath. This was the part he never talked about, not even to himself. When you go quiet, like when we fight, and you go to your room, I get scared you're really mad at me, and I don't know how to fix it. Liam slowly turned his head, his eyes wide as he looked at Dylan. He hadn't expected this. And when Mom and Dad are busy, and it's just us, Dylan continued, his voice a little stronger, I feel like I have to be in charge. Like I have to make sure everything's perfect. And when things are messy, or you forget stuff, I feel like I'm failing. Like I'm not doing a good job being the older brother. He swallowed hard. Sometimes. Sometimes I get lonely, too, when you're always off by yourself. The words tumbled out, faster now like a dam breaking. Dylan confessed things he'd never even admitted to himself. The pressure of being the older brother, the fear of messing up, the quiet loneliness he felt when Liam retreated into his own world. He looked at Liam, a raw honesty in his gaze. "So I yell," he finished, his voice cracking a little, "because I don't know what else to do, and I don't want you to be mad at me. Or go away." Liam just stared, taking it all in. Dylan, who always seemed so tough and sure of himself, was admitting he was scared and lonely. It was a side of his brother he had never seen before, a hidden part that explained so much. The city lights, once just a pretty backdrop, now seemed to pulse with a shared understanding, weaving a quiet magic around them both. The anger between them had truly faded, replaced by something fragile and new, a shared vulnerability. Liam stared at Dylan, the last vestiges of his anger finally dissolving into a mix of surprise and a strange, tender understanding. Dylan, scared and lonely? Dylan, who always seemed so big and strong and sure of everything. It was like looking at a puzzle piece that finally clicked into place, making the whole picture clear. He suddenly understood why Dylan yelled so much, why he always seemed so bothered by little things. It wasn't because he hated Liam. It was because he was trying so hard to be perfect, and he was scared of being alone. The city lights continued their silent sparkle below, no longer mocking, but now feeling like a gentle, warm hug. The cool night breeze rustled Liam's hair, and for the first time in a long time, the heavy knot in his stomach completely unraveled. He felt a different kind of pain now, a soft ache in his chest, knowing that his big brother had been carrying such worries all this time. "I didn't know," Liam whispered, his voice still a little shaky, but full of new emotion. "I didn't know you felt like that." He looked down at his hands, then back up at Dylan, a tentative smile forming on his lips. It wasn't a big smile, but it was real. "I get scared too. When you yell, I think you don't like me anymore." Dylan nodded slowly, his own eyes a little red at the edges. "I know," he said, his voice rough, "and I don't like it when you get quiet. It makes me feel like I did something really bad and I can't fix it." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the shared weight of their feelings creating a bridge between them. It wasn't just the words, but the honesty behind them, the raw truth that they both had been hiding. They had both been hurting, but in different ways, and those hidden hurts had been twisting into anger and fights. "So we were both just scared?" Liam asked, trying out the idea. Dylan nodded again. "Yeah, and maybe a little lonely, too. I guess when you went off by yourself, I thought you didn't want to be my brother anymore." Liam finally scooted a little closer to Dylan on the wall. "No," he said firmly. "I always want to be your brother, even when you yell." He thought about it for a second. "But maybe we could try not to yell so much. And maybe I could try not to run away." Dylan managed a small, hopeful smile. "Yeah," he said, looking out at the vast, twinkling city. "Yeah, I think we could try that." The air between them, once thick with tension, now felt light and clear, filled with a quiet understanding that warmed them both. The anger had melted away, leaving behind a fragile but strong new connection. They realized their fights weren't about hate, but about hidden fears and wanting to be heard. The agreement to try harder, to yell less and run away less, hung gently in the air between Liam and Dylan. It wasn't a loud promise, but a quiet, hopeful understanding. They both looked out at the city again, the sparkling lights stretching endlessly beneath them. The silence that followed wasn't the heavy, angry silence from before. This was a soft, comfortable quiet, like a warm blanket wrapping around them both. They watched the tiny cars crawl along the streets, their headlights making long, glowing trails. A plane, a distant silver bird, blinked its way across the dark sky. The city's hum was a gentle lullaby, no longer just background noise, but a part of their newfound peace. Liam leaned his head back against the cool wall, feeling Dylan's presence beside him. He didn't need to say anything more, and neither did Dylan. All the important words had already been spoken, the hard truths laid bare. In this peaceful quiet, there were unspoken apologies passing between them. Apologies for the sharp words, for the hurt feelings, for the misunderstandings that had built up like a wall. The anger was truly gone now, replaced by a feeling of closeness that was stronger than before. It was a friendship renewed, deeper because they had been honest, even when it was scary. Liam felt a warmth spread through his chest, like he had swallowed a tiny sun. He realized that sometimes the hardest talks were the ones that led to the best feelings. Dylan shifted slightly, and Liam felt a light bump of his brother's shoulder against his own. It was a small thing, but it spoke volumes. It meant, I'm here, and I care, and we're okay. Liam smiled to himself, a genuine, happy smile this time. They sat there for a long time, just watching the city breathe. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, and the city lights below seemed to dance just for them. It was a perfect moment, a quiet promise under the vast, open sky. They didn't need words to fix everything. Sometimes, just being together, understanding each other, and sharing a peaceful silence was enough. The rooftop, Liam's secret thinking spot, had become a place of healing for both brothers. It was a silent agreement, a quiet pact to try and be better for each other, to listen more and yell less. The city, their silent witness, held their renewed friendship in its sparkling embrace. The peaceful quiet settled around Liam and Dylan like a warm, comforting blanket. They didn't need to fill the air with more words. The city lights continued their silent show, a beautiful backdrop to the quiet mending of their brotherhood. A shared breath seemed to pass between them, a silent promise to remember this moment, this feeling of understanding. Liam felt a warmth spread from his heart all the way to his fingertips. The heavy feeling he'd carried all day, ever since the fight, had completely lifted. It was replaced by a sense of belonging, a deep knowing that Dylan was truly his brother, not just in name, but in heart. They had seen each other's hidden fears and sadness, and that made their bond stronger than any angry words could break. Dylan, sitting beside Liam, felt it too. The worry that had gnawed at him, the fear that Liam would stay mad or drift away, had faded. Looking at the twinkling city, he knew they were okay. More than okay. They were better. It took courage to say the hard things, to show the parts of himself he usually kept hidden. But seeing Liam listen, seeing the understanding in his little brother's eyes, made it all worth it. Their friendship wasn't just about playing games or living in the same house. It was about truly seeing and caring for each other, even when it was tough. After a long while, as the moon climbed higher in the sky and the city lights seemed to glow with a softer intensity, Dylan finally spoke, his voice gentle. We should probably head down soon. Mom will wonder where we are. Liam nodded, a small, happy hum escaping his lips. He didn't feel like running or hiding anymore. He felt ready to face their mom, ready to face the world with Dylan by his side. They stood up, stretching out their legs. As they walked towards a rooftop door, their shoulders brushed, a small, natural contact that felt full of comfort and unspoken warmth. There was no need for grand gestures or big apologies. The honesty they had shared under the city lights had done its magic. As they carefully descended the dusty stairwell, the silence was still with them, but it was a different kind of silence. It was a silence filled with trust, with a renewed sense of connection. They knew there would be other arguments, other days when they might get mad. But now, they also knew they had a way to fix things, a way to find their way back to each other. Their friendship had been tested, and through honesty and vulnerability, it had grown deeper and stronger, just like the roots of an old, wise tree. They walked back into their apartment, not as two brothers still angry, but as two brothers who truly understood each other, ready to face whatever came next, together.